You want to make it about the numbers? Let's make it about the numbers. It's not 62 million men in the US. It's actually way more than that. Sorry, no, I'm not talking about the number of men in the US going to a website to watch videos of women getting sexually assaulted. I'm talking about the number of men in the US committing sexual assault. And since you're all suddenly obsessed with the numbers, boy, do I have some numbers for you. But hey, I am so happy that when I said fact check, but make sure not to lose sight of what the real problem is here, the real issue, the real story, so many of you came back with saying, well, the number is important. 62 million men, that would be horrific. 62 million men, 1/3 of American men, that would be an epidemic. I am so glad you feel that way, because this study shows that 32%, or just under 1/3 of college-aged men who were asked, admit they would rape a woman if they thought they could get away with it. But Brenna, you say, that's aspirational. Surely the vast majority of these men don't actually achieve those dreams, and I'm here to tell you not to worry, because it appears that the vast majority of them do. In this study, again, self-reported, 24.5% of men acknowledged committing an act since the age of 14 that met standard legal definitions of attempted or completed rape. But wait, there's more. An additional 39% had committed another type of sexual assault involving forced sexual content or verbal coercion, bringing the grand total, of course, to 63.5%. Now again, pedantic, so I did the math. Based on the most recent population stats, the number of adult men in the United States is 132,809,050. 24.5% of which would mean 32,538,217, and another 51,795,529 who committed sexual assault, bringing the grand total to 84,333,746. Sure seems like an epidemic to me. Now, you know what's really interesting about this? Because these are self-reported numbers, these are underreported. Yeah. This study specifically tried to mitigate the underreporting by having the questionnaire answered on a computer so that the subjects wouldn't have to be facing a researcher or another human while they answered. And in fact, that's why the majority of this research that looks at self-reports of perpetrators actually largely focuses on comparative analysis, because the idea is that the underreporting will likely be pretty uniform across the different factors. So for example, here's one study comparing the numbers between convicted offenders and what they called community men. Similarly, they found that among the community men, 59% reported they had committed at least one act of sexual assault, with 47% reporting perpetrating more than one and 28% reporting perpetrating 5 or more. And in fact, we know for a fact that it's underreported in these studies because we have studies on that too. There's one recent one where they set up a bogus pipeline condition. This is where they make some of the subjects believe that their honesty is being measured. But if they believe that the honesty of their responses is being monitored, they had 6.5 times greater odds of endorsing the use of illegal sexual assault strategies on a widely used measure. 6.5 times more likely if they thought you were going to catch them in the lie. And by the way, in this study, that means 37.9% admitted to using sexual assault tactics, including intoxication, incapacitation, threat, and force strategies. 37.9%. That's more than a third, in case you're still counting. In this other study, you know, the first one I actually mentioned, where 1/3 of college-age men said that they would rape a woman if they could get away with it, that was actually measuring if the men would respond differently depending on how it was worded. In reality, only 14% said that they would rape a woman if they thought they could get away with it, but 32% said that they would force a woman to have intercourse. So, you know, by definition, rape. And last but not least, we need to talk about the most recent study and the most anonymous to date. Because here's the thing, the numbers are not going down. The more successfully researchers figure out ways to encourage participants to actually be honest, whether it's through making them more anonymous or whatever, the more confirmation we get of how historically underreported this is. To the point where a study came out this month that showed that 95.1% of men surveyed had used at least one strategy listed to force a woman to have sex that they knew did not want to. And while yes, the range of coercion begins at telling her everything that she wants to hear, you know, lying, it only gets darker from there. 25% saying that on numerous occasions they got her away from everyone somewhere private and under their control. 22% saying that on numerous occasions they gradually pushed verbally or physically until they got what they wanted. An additional 9.8% saying that they did it once or twice. 25% on numerous occasions kept touching and kissing her. Another 25% did it once or twice. Multiple versions of either getting her intoxicated or keeping her that way, taking advantage of the fact that she was sleepy, using something like GHB, using a variety of threats, anger, guilt, focusing on a woman that they figured was unlikely to tell anyone if he kept going. Over 6% on numerous occasions used physical restraint. 3.3 once or twice. And I cannot help but think of how many of you are in my comments right now saying 99% of men would never. Buddy, 95.1% of you do. So yeah, as I said from the beginning, they are technically correct. It is not 62 million men. No, they're not correct about the 1,000 number that they are deeply ironically spreading, because that is just as misleading as the 62 million men number. That is just the number of men in one of many Telegram channels, not the website. But then again, this was never actually about the facts for you people. But I digress. It is not 1/3 of men in America. It's actually closer to 2. 84 million men in the United States alone who have committed assault or rape. And once again, that is almost definitely underreported. So there you go. You wanted to focus on the numbers. Now you got the numbers. What are you going to do about it now? What is the conversation you're going to have now? What are you going to say now? Because I've been hearing all week that if it were that bad, you would be talking about it. I'll wait.